Lesson 39, last day of the course. We don't have any major subject to discuss anymore, only a pranayama, which takes 10-15 minutes to explain. So we're going to wrap it up today. Are there any questions, first and foremost? No? Okay. So, I hope you have enjoyed the course, of course. Most importantly, I hope that you have gotten a grasp on the incredible value of yoga, that you had a grasp on what yoga really is about. We live in a society that is focused on commerce, of course, money. We live in a society that is focused on outlook, which is very often superficial. And since the commercialization of yoga 20-some years ago, that is what happened with yoga. Like I explained in the introduction workshop, yoga was an obscure practice before the commercialization in the late 1990s. And it was obscure because it is surrounded by so much mystery and dogma. So, people feeling attracted to yoga while it was still obscure is not just the average kind of people. It's people that are looking for answers, people that are looking for themselves, people that are looking to understand the world around them and their place within that world. The only way to commercialize an obscure practice is to just cut out all the mystery and dogma. It is basically being stripped of all its valuable aspects to make it accessible to the masses of the people. They have succeeded in that. There is a yoga studio on every street corner. That's not good, that's not bad. I would dare say actually that it's good. Many traditional yogis will say that it's bad. But the reason that I think that it's good is the obscure practice that was not really accessible to many people has now found a new gateway for many people that otherwise would never have been interested in yoga. And they find their way through the superficial yoga. They start with superficial yoga. They start with exercise, or diet yoga, or what have you. And they talk with other people. They talk with their instructors, who have, of course, learned something about yoga. People read books, internet articles, and what have you. And knowingly or unknowingly, people then start to connect with the essence of yoga. People start to feel, hey, there is something there. Something deeper, something more profound. And I feel attracted to that. So people start searching. People start searching for real yoga, Raja yoga, philosophical yoga, what have you. It's very difficult to find. It's very difficult to find, because even places that proclaim, that advertise to be teaching real yoga, they are not. But the commercialization of yoga has opened the door to many people who would otherwise never have started practicing yoga. Now about the mystery and the dogma. The reason why mystery and dogma exist in the first place is what? Is ignorance. Ignorance by the people who should know, the teachers. Because it's the teachers that keep the mystery and dogma existing, in existence. Because they cannot answer questions. And their knowledge, they may have a lot of theoretical knowledge, but they have not succeeded in turning that into practical knowledge, in what we in yoga call real knowledge. There is knowledge and there is real knowledge. The theoretical knowledge is not wrong. But as long as you have not contemplated it and understand the essence of it, it remains superficial. And as a teacher, all you can do is repeat the theory without elaborating, without explaining what's behind it, what it really means. And then students come with questions, and the teacher, a bit embarrassed, doesn't know the answer. And either they give an answer that leaves you with more questions, or they just don't know how to answer the question. So what we do here is we stripped yoga of all its mystery and dogma by getting to the essence of what it is all about. By translating the symbolical text into practical language so that you can directly apply it to yourself in your daily life. And that is where yoga really comes to life. That is where the real value, the real power of yoga manifests. That is where yoga truly becomes transformative. The reason why many people are intrigued, attracted by yoga is because when you dig a little bit into the matter, there are promises. There are promises of transformation. There are promises of change, of taking control of one's life and destiny. And indeed also promises of getting rid of suffering and misery. Often people end up disappointed. They try here and there, and the practice is good, but the questions are not being answered. And the promises of transformation and taking control are not being fulfilled. So people get frustrated, disappointed, and some of those people find their way here, like you did. Yoga is not a superficial concept. I kind of do not like to even pronounce the word. Yoga is life. The word yoga is life, but life in a different way than normal people live their life. Yoga implies control, but not control in the way of suppressing or denying yourself being human. That you have to eat only vegetarian food and preferably only grass and roots and what have you, as some fanatics do. That is a distortion of what yoga really is about. Yoga goes out from the point of view that you are what you are. But if you start being what you are consciously from now on, that is where change really starts to happen. And that change starts from the very beginning that you step into a real yoga class. Yoga has been reduced to a physical exercise, and it is being likened up. How do you say that? It is being fancied up using new age music and maybe putting some nice images, illustrations on the wall of Ganesha and the Lord of the Dance, Shiva. Clever marketing people in that way know how to sell an empty shell. I may have told you I worked with the Korea Yoga Federation for 6 months. It was only 6 months because after 1 month working with them, I already wanted to leave. I couldn't because I need 6 months to finish a course. The people managing that organization, actually one man who is basically the boss, he's a businessman. He's not a yogi, he doesn't know yoga. He's a businessman, clever businessman who jumped on the fashion trend of yoga. His studios, I've got an insight in the studios and talked with people who franchisees, the people who have a branch under that brand. And the membership fees are very high, higher than other yoga studios. Surprisingly, I was really surprised to find out that their membership numbers are higher than other studios. So not only are they more expensive, they have more members than other studios, which means it's profitable. And their secret is marketing. They take over old studios or they start a new studio. They create new studio 12 per year or so. Maybe because of COVID it has slowed down now. But before COVID they were creating so many studios under 3 different brands. American Hot Yoga, Arya Yoga, and another brand. They're pumping out studios like crazy, and membership is expensive, but they have lots of members. And it's all about they had verses of Patanjali on the wall. And for a member, for a person visiting the studio with an interest, that looks impressive. Don't ask what it means because they don't know. I had to explain what those verses mean. They don't know. But members also don't ask. They just soak it up and feel impressed. And it feels magical and mysterious, and they're willing to pay a lot of money for that. I'd love to have a studio like that, but I can't. Because it doesn't feel good, it doesn't feel right. And the reason why I wanted to leave them is because it was just run like any other Korean company. They recruited me to work with them, and I thought, nice, after working for 8 years with a super commercial gym, which was in fact the perfect marriage of super commerce with super traditional yoga. I worked under their umbrella and I had the best years of my life there. But I had to leave because it was sold and then it was sold again, and they just wanted to get rid of me to cut costs. Because that's how you superficially inflate the profit numbers and then you sell it to the next. That gym was sold 3 or 4 times in the 8 years that I was there. Every time they inflate the numbers and they sell it at a profit, and the next owner always, it's closed now. They have turned it into an office building. Mm-hmm. It was the biggest gym in Korea, 5,000 pyong, over 6 floors. They get in trouble, then they go through the same trick again, inflating the numbers, and they sell it to somebody who is just fooled into believing that it is a profitable enterprise. So they go bankrupt. So I ended up with the Korea Yoga Federation, the right time. It was kind of a way out. And it was the logical next thing to do. But it was run like a typical Korean company. So lots of empty promises. I was recruited based on promises. Lots of empty promises, lies, blatant lies, and bullying. Which is what all Korean people working in a company complain about. It was just run like a normal Korean company. With all the manipulation and lying and false promises, just really. So I can't work with that. I'd rather suffer than work like that. So that led to the next step. I found a studio where I could just do my Saturday and Sunday classes in Nonyeong-dong. I did that for 1.5 years, and then I took a break for 1 year. And then I started in a studio here, close by. Just a little overview. Thomas had his first course there. A nice studio. But then COVID came, and the owner basically quickly decided to. He was Korean American, so he went back to America. He left his wife here. He went back to America, and then they sold the studio to the manager, because they had 2 studios, one in Yangjae, one here. They sold the studio to the manager, who then wanted to get rid of us in a very tricky way, because that's the Korean way, not direct. So I said, I understand. Do you have any suggestion? Where can I go? And she said, you can try the building next door. There is a yoga studio. They don't have classes on the weekend. So I called them and they were not interested. So I called the manager again, and she was very helpful. So, as long as you stay nice, in spite of the bad things that are happening, just stay nice and constructive, people will help. And she helped, and she connected me with this studio, and it's such a nice. I wish it was a little bit bigger, but the owner is so nice. She's a real yogi owner, which is lacking in almost all the studios. Because all studios are all about money. And she's really nice. She's really a yogi manager. Whenever I receive a cacao or a phone call, it's always good news. While my experience before was always when the phone rings, you better not answer it, because there's always nonsense coming your way. Always playing games or bad news or. How did we get here? Yeah, it was about marketing. It's all about marketing. And I'm really not good at marketing. I'm really not good at social media also. But that's my way. And I can't force it because it doesn't feel right to me. It feels like compromising myself, corrupting myself. So, as long as I survive, then I can live like that. And I really feel the universe really supports me in that way. And I'm not saying that you should live your life like that, because it's not easy. It requires a lot of patience, gray hair, white, and the rest is gone. Lots of patience, courage. And I cannot ask you to do like that. But what I can do is teach yoga properly, and you will find your own way. And you will find your own courage, because that is a quality in the crown chakra. And your practice here has led you to connect with that crown chakra, and you will more and more function from that level of consciousness. It's just a natural consequence of that development. And you will find your way, like it took me 40 years to find my way. Anybody interested in teaching yoga? People sometimes ask.
Eventually.
Yeah.
Not
Yes.
right now.
Yeah, so how do you do that? Where do you start? You can approach it in a commercial way, which most people would do, because that is in a material way, that is the most stable approach, I guess. But you have noticed that in this course we do not have a section on how to teach yoga, which is a big part of the curriculum in other yoga courses. What other yoga courses do is pump out robots who teach in the same way, because they are taught to correct people in the same way, they are taught to say the same things in the same way. And you know, that is so totally in contradiction with yoga, because the purpose of yoga is to bring out you, the individual in you. And that is the opposite of creating robots that are all functioning in a unified way. So the reason why we don't have a section on how to teach is because teaching is something that, when it is about yoga especially, it's something that should, or that will start in a natural way, in a spontaneous way. With me, it happened that I attended a reception at. I was in Korea for a couple of months. I was suffering from culture shock. I was lonely in the neighborhood where I lived and attended the Hapkido gym. There were very few people that could speak English. So I called the embassy and I asked if there were any, I called the Dutch embassy and asked if there were any gatherings with the Dutch community. I was just craving meeting some Dutch people that I could communicate with. And so there was. Every September, I think, and February, they have a gathering at somebody's house to welcome the new expats. Every September, every summer after the vacation, and every winter after the vacation, people go home and others come in. New people come in. So they gave me information on where to attend. It was a house on the hill in Itaewon, very nice big villa, of course, in Itaewon. Higher up on the hill, the most expensive houses are there. Samsung chairman also lived there. Ko Yeon-jong lived there before she divorced. And I went there, and automatically, you know, the question is, what are you doing in Korea? So, no, I came to create a practice Hapkido, but I'm a yoga teacher. "Ah, you are a yoga teacher? Oh, how about our yoga teacher actually left? Was also a foreigner. Our yoga teacher actually left, so can you teach yoga? So, yeah, sure. I don't know how to start. Okay, we can set that up. So I started with I don't know. My first yoga class was in the German school in Hannamdong, in the gymnasium, which is a huge, dusty hall, very cold in the winter, bloody hot in the summer. But that's where we started. I think with 2 people in November. Then in December they said, well, you know, it's December, Christmas, New Year, so how about we start again in February? So I thought we just started. Okay. So February, we had a meeting at the Siwa. I gathered new students, 9 people. Siwa is Seoul International Women Association, twice a year, especially when new people come. So September or August and January, they have this meeting in a luxury hotel here or there, and you sit behind the table with what you have to offer. Thai cooking, Korean cooking, yoga, Pilates. So I sat there and 9 people signed up for my course, for my class in the German school. And then I broke my ankle 1 week before I was supposed to start. And I thought, I'm not going to let those 9 people go. So I went there on my crutches. And I started my first yoga class on crutches. 9 people, 5 people came back the next week. 4, they thought, a yogi on crutches, no way. But 5 people came back. And among those, I met somebody who then said, have you tried the Soul Club? Do you know the Soul Club? Soul Club is a country club in Changchun-dong. It's the oldest country club in Korea. It's from before the Japanese occupation. So it has a tradition. And it is attended by all the rich people in Seoul. Not only the chaebol, but also politicians, and the foreign diplomats, and the foreign CEOs of the multinational companies. So I was just thrown in there, just like that. And I could start my classes there, just like that. And nobody interfered with what I was doing. It's just amazing how it just happened. But what I'm trying to say is, it just happens. When the word is out that you know something about yoga, and people ask questions, you will see. You have no idea yet. You will see that when people start asking questions about yoga and you get into a conversation, their jaw drops because they realize you really know something about yoga. And that is where it starts. That is where people will want to learn from you. And when that happens, and you don't know how to start, ask them, how can I start? I don't know where to start. Don't even know where I can teach. They will come with some suggestion, like they did with me with the German school. It was not ideal, but I ended up in the Soul Club. One of the best places to have. Only a couple of months later already. And I started with 1 class there, and then it became 3 classes, and then I started prenatal classes, and then I started morning classes. Just amazing how it evolved. I was at the right place at the right time. The universe provides. If it's meant to be, something will lead you. How do you teach? Just refer to what you learned here. You have a schedule. Base your first classes on the schedule. Just start with the tree pose and the triangle pose. And slowly evolve. And you will become more and more confident, and at some point you don't need to look at the schedule anymore. After a couple of years working from a list of exercises, I more and more started deviating from what I wrote down. And I ended up starting every class not knowing what I was going to do that day. Just start with Om, and then a spinal twist, and then it would just evolve. I would never know in advance what exercises exactly we're going to do. It becomes intuitive, and people love it because they feel that you are into it. Most of all, be yourself. Do not portray yourself or try to portray yourself as that yogi. Just be yourself. They will see you as a yogi when it becomes clear that you know something about yoga. When it becomes clear that what you do makes them really feel good. You don't have to have funny hairstyle or gold woolen socks or Birkenstock slippers. Well, Birkenstock slippers are very normal these days. When I was learning yoga, Birkenstock slippers were either for hippies or people working in the healthcare industry. Now everybody has Birkenstock. So we always made jokes about those kind of things. But you know, see me sitting here, one of the most traditional yogis in Korea, with one of the I dare say, deepest knowledge of what yoga really is about in Korea. And I'm joking about yoga, and I'm joking about what it is to be a yoga teacher. And I'm just being myself. In daily life, I'm even worse. It's all jokes and pranking and fooling around to a certain level. But you know what that means? You know what that means? That means that you're in the crown chakra. You understand? Because when you're in good spirits, you're light-hearted. And you joke. In a good-hearted, good-spirited way. Not in a mean-spirited way. Never to demean. But just light-hearted. Life is already serious enough. When you're functioning in the crown chakra, you are in good spirits, literally, because that is what being good-spirited means. And that naturally comes with a light-hearted way of communicating. In fact, I dare say you will not be able to communicate in a serious way anymore. Unless you're in trouble, then your energy drops. Then the hell breaks loose. But be yourself. Many yoga teachers are portraying to be a yoga teacher and it just doesn't feel right. Have you experienced that? Just be yourself. This owner of this studio understands that completely. Because not only she is like that, but the people that she hires to teach yoga classes here also, they're very genuine, very spontaneous, very uncomplicated, as far as I know. I don't know them very much on a personal level, but I've met some of them. So I cannot give you a concrete answer on how to teach yoga, even though this is a teacher training course. That sounds like a contradiction, but as a teacher, what you need is a firm foundation. Practical, with the exercises, and philosophical. I'm deliberately not using the word theoretical, but understanding the philosophy, understanding the essence of yoga. And when you have that, the teacher in you will come out when it is time. And it will evolve in a way as it has with me. You just have to start somewhere. And of course, just like me, you don't know how, refer back to your schedule. Just start with the tree pose, Dandasana tree pose, triangle poses, and go from there. In between classes, you look more at your schedule, you go to later classes, you add some more intermediate and advanced poses, and little by little you become confident, you start becoming more playful in the class and more creative in the class. And very important is that you connect with the people that you are teaching. That you're not like a robot, but that you actually consider people's needs also. Yoga is not only for healthy people. On the contrary, people who are not so healthy have much more benefit from yoga than people who are already healthy. But you cannot force them into a pretzel pose. You cannot force them to bend completely down with their head on their shins. You have to be compassionate. Use your heart. Feel people's limitations and assure them. Because everybody, you and me included, we always want to do the perfect pose, especially when with other people. Especially when the teacher says, do it like this. So comfort them. Assure them that they don't have to push, that they don't, because it might actually lead to harm, to hurt, to pain. Make them feel comfortable with their imperfection. And they will love you for it. It's very important because only then you can develop. That's what yoga really is about. And therefore each individual will do it in their own individual way. And as a teacher, you have to promote that, not try to limit that. In the way that teachers are being trained all to function in a uniform way. That is totally anti-yoga, basically. It is maybe an efficient way to train people, but if you understand what yoga really is about, you wouldn't be able to train people like that. But these kind of systems are developed by people who only think about money, making money. So, and that's not a bad thing, don't misunderstand. That's not an ugly thing, like many spiritual people will want you to believe. Money is important. We live in a society where you can't do anything without money. You need to pay the bills, and if you have ambitions, you need to be able to put some money on the side into your bank account. So money is not, but do it in the right way. Do it without corruption, corrupting yourself or other people. Do it without harming other people. And that's something that goes lost by the wayside in many people's ways of doing business. As a yogi, you become increasingly sensitive, and as a result of that increased sensitivity, it will become increasingly difficult to engage in impure conduct. Meaning doing things in an impure way, in an incorrect way, when it leads to harm to other people. About life in general, follow your feeling. I hope I made clear that feeling transcends thought. Thought is important because thought allows you to rationalize things, to get things clear mentally. But as a support to what you feel. I think last week I did tell you already about how I decided never to have a dog anymore. And I got two. And you know, I didn't want to have a dog anymore because the death of my previous dog was so painful. Because actually the vet kind of bungled, messed up. And you know, dogs die before you, most of the times. And just the idea of having to go through that again, I just vowed to never ever have dogs anymore. So when Pada appeared in the park, I didn't even think about that promise to myself not to have dogs anymore, because the feeling was so strong. But had I functioned like many people tend to function based on thought, I would have felt that strong connection with Pada, but then I would have overruled that and said, no, I'm not going to suffer anymore 15 years from now on when he dies. I've had enough with the previous experience, and let somebody else take care of this. So I followed my feeling. And it turned my life upside down. That dog had never experienced family life. And then his sister, 3 months later, joined us. It was even worse. She destroyed the whole interior, basically, systematically. But I needed that. That was the year that I was taking a sabbatical. And I took a sabbatical because I got stuck. I did not feel any purpose anymore, no passion anymore. Which is something everybody will sooner or later go through. Because it is important that you have a reset there. That you reevaluate what you're doing and what you want with the rest of your life. And it's one of the best things that I ever did in my life, taking those 2 dogs. It's almost a full-time job, but every day they make my heart explode. And you've never seen them, right? It's the fox and the wolf. Pada looks like a wolf, he really does. When I walk in the park, I hear people whispering, oh, nukte-katte, nukte-katte. He looks like a wolf. He does, but he's so gentle. He's so lovely, so sweet. When other dogs attack, he just avoids them, evades them. When he's playing with a stick and another dog wants to take that stick, he just lets them take the stick. While other dogs would start growling or even fighting, he just let it go. He's so amazing. Bobby is feisty. She will not yield. If she is being attacked, she attacks back, but never with biting or anything. She just bites off of her. Is that a proper expression in English? She will just react with some growling and barking, but never jumping on another dog or attacking. Just chase them away. And they were both Bobby, in the center where she was staying, they had given up on her. They were just waiting for her to die because they couldn't find anybody who could adopt her. She's so difficult, unstable, so scared, nobody can approach her, nobody can touch her. Still, I'm the only one who can touch her. But she's very responsive. Sometimes more responsive than Pada. Because I let them off the leash. That's one reason that I walk them at 4 a.m., 4 o'clock in the morning, is we can go into the park and I unleash them and we walk like 3 kilometers off the leash. There are no other people, it's dark. And I just let them do their thing. And because it's brother and sister, they play a lot with each other, they run around like crazy, they sniff a lot. But when they're out of sight and I call them, they come immediately. Like two ghosts in the night, I see them coming, storming towards me. It's just amazing how they changed and how they connect with me. So I followed my heart instead of my thought. If I had followed my thought, and this is what I want to say really, I would have denied myself an incredible opportunity to make a difference. No, to just feel alive again. Because that's what they do. They make me busy, but I feel alive again. And the same thing happened recently with I'm in a relationship recently, and that happened in the same way, kind of. And interestingly, she asked me, why did you choose me? And you know what the answer was? I said, I didn't choose you, it just happened. Because that's really what happened. And because of that, it's so perfect, but it was another situation like with Pada and Bobby. I had vowed never ever to have a relationship in which there is a big age difference. And there was chemistry. It just happened very naturally. There was no plan or anything. At least not from my side. Just good communication and it just evolved very naturally, very spontaneously. And it became so deep. If I had stuck to my thought, the vow that I made 7 years ago when a relationship ended in a very traumatic way, I would have, just like with the dogs, I would have denied a very important development in my life. I just let it happen. And I know with the dogs, they will sooner or later, and probably die before I die. So I will have to go through that. But when that arrives, I will take care of it. And I will remind myself of the fact that they gave me 14 or 15 or 16, depending on how long they gave me a wonderful, incredible time in my life when I needed it most. As human beings, we tend to make decisions based on fear. So we say, no, I'm not going to do this because, what if? And we deny ourselves possible, incredible developments in our lives in that way. I hope you understand how fear works from Muladhara Chakra. Fear is involved in every thought, every decision, every move that you make in life. It is the reason why most people will never evolve, never change. They don't have the courage for big change. But you do. Courage is not something that you can learn from a book or from what I'm talking about to you, because courage is in the crown chakra. Practice yoga correctly, and courage will naturally become part of how you function. You will see. But you sometimes fall back into old habits. Sometimes you're just being human. But from now on, you do that consciously. Things happen and you look back and you say, I see how this works and why this happened. And so you become wiser. So you turn avidya into vidya. And that's how you grow and develop. And remember that it's a process of decades. Basically for the rest of your life, that is how this will unfold. And at last, I want to talk about something that I talked about a couple of times. That is, I talk about the universe. The universe takes care of me. And it sounds almost like a religion, because you can replace the word by the word God. But if you live life more and more consciously, you will see that the things that we have studied here are not just theories. You start to see the law of cause and effect at work. And if you're honest with yourself, which you will be more and more, not only because you studied Yama and Niyama, but also because you studied the philosophy of the Kleshas, you know that anything and everything that happens from now on, you have an involvement in that. And very often, we are the cause of the things that happen in our lives. When we radiate positive energy, positive things will come towards us and will start to happen more and more in our lives. When we radiate negative energy, then negative things start to happen. We have a tendency to point fingers when things happen. And we do not absolve other people of their responsibility, except for the fact that it's not important. What is important is, what do we do with that experience? And if we do that in the yogi way, we do it consciously. People have done bad things, sometimes we do bad things. It's not a matter of good and bad anymore. It's about, why did this happen? And what was the result of it? And when you start to see that, you automatically start making corrections. And the only way from there is up. But 2 steps forward, 1 step back. But the only way from here is up, little by little. You will grow and develop more and more towards positivity. And that will attract more and more positivity. And when it goes wrong, which it inevitably will, because we're only human and sometimes ignorant still, when it goes wrong, do not drown yourself in the misery that comes with that failure or that conflict. For a moment you are hit by the negativity, by the pain, by the emotion, but you quickly gather yourself and you try to learn something from it, and that will propel you forward to the next step in your life. Because remember, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. You cannot make those 2 steps forward without the 1 step back. And that 1 step back is the misery that you time and time experience in life. Every time something happens in a negative way, some conflict or failure, is only there to teach you, to mature you also, so that you are ready for the next 2 steps forward. When you're 20 years old, you can wish to be rich, but you don't have the qualities to be rich. You can wish to be a pilot or a doctor or a yoga teacher, but you don't have the qualities to be a pilot or a doctor or a yoga teacher or whatever it is that you have in mind. But you can get there. All you have to do is just start somewhere. And from there, 2 steps forward, 1 step back, and one day you will find yourself qualified as a pilot, or a doctor, or a lawyer, or a yoga teacher. once you can see that, you will not suffer anymore. Yes, there will be suffering, but not like before. Because from now you start doing something constructive with it. And you start to see that it's actually leading somewhere. You will even come to the point of gratitude towards your suffering, because you realize that it has made you who you are. Anyway, questions?
Are you going to repeat this course next year?
13th of February.
Okay.
Planning a course 13th of February. Okay, practical things. If you want to do the course again, you get a 30% discount. If you do it for the third time, you get 50% discount. After that, for the rest of your life, you have free access to the course. Don't have to pay anything anymore. Every February, every August, we start a new course. Advanced course is uncertain because the owner is very nice, but I don't know if there is a day that she will say, we cannot accommodate you anymore. Because that happened before. And an advanced course is a 1.5 year commitment, and I need a place where I know that I can stay for 1.5 years. So the only thing that I can do is I have all your email addresses and of all previous students going back to 2008, I think. Before that has gone lost. So when I decide to, when the opportunity comes to have another advanced course, I will send email to everybody who has done the basic course in the past 5 years or so. So you will receive a notice. If you're not in Korea anymore, if you have a little bit of discipline, you can follow it on YouTube. So we'll see. If you want to know a little bit more about Pata and Babi or see them, there's a YouTube channel. It's my name and then Pata and Babi in Korean. There are a couple of hundred videos, I think, with mainly in the park, some at home. It was a tradition to bring them to class. I always brought my dogs to the yoga studio before, but I don't have my own studio. And I asked the owner last year, at first she said okay, but then 3 days later she sent me a Kakao Talk. Yes, but there are other people in the classes here, our members, and we have to consider our members. And so, okay, not possible anymore. Maybe that is the reason why they wanted to get rid of me in the other studio, because I brought them without asking. And they may have seen photo, because everybody, is on Facebook and Instagram. And they may have come across photos where they realized that there were dogs in the studio without permission. People can be sensitive about that. But it brought us here. So the universe once again provided. Okay? I just don't know what more to add to this. I would like to tell you so much more and give you so much more insight, but I think I'm talking too much. So if ever you have questions, just drop me an email. I will help you on your way, give you some insight. That's also a commitment that remains for forever until the end of probably my life, because I'm older than most of you. So don't hesitate. First, of course, you always try to solve your issues yourself, because that is where you learn. When you get stuck, when you're about to go to the bridge to jump off, drop me a line. I've had that kind of moment several times, you know, thinking it would be just to end all the struggles and challenges. But I have nobody to write to. You know what I do? I start going into a conversation with myself. And I tell myself what I would tell you. I don't know if you've ever experienced such desperation. Most of you probably have. But remember always that today is today. Next year, everything will be different. Just hang in there. How do you do that? Take care of yourself. Stay active with a routine. That's where the dogs come in, for example. Stay active with the routine. Eat good food. Exercise. And allow the universe some time to create new circumstances. You will see, it really works. Just be patient. Hang in there. Let's have a short break, then we'll start with asana.